might sign off on this. I'd say, yeah, sure, go for it. Right? So this is the kind, this kind of, I hope this kind of like completes the picture for all of you, right? Because all of you have done a great job of suggesting the stories. But, you know, it's a single story. It can be done in 2 weeks, right? It helps the team. It's in scope. So it meets all of these, like the requirements of Agile. It meets the requirements of planning. So this is good, right? I mean, this moves the team forward. This helps the team when you're taking on stories like this. Yeah, so good job, guys. I mean, this is a perfectly reasonable story, and quite frankly, this is something you would probably be doing at a place like IBM or, you know, other large companies, right? Like this is a well-written story and task. All right, so good job. So last thing I want to touch upon, because I promised this to you guys in the presentation. So we're gonna say in a brainstorming meeting, you would sit here and you would write literally dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of these stories. Okay? How do you assign these stories? Like if I'm a project manager, right? If I'm the chief data scientist, who's taking on the stories? Just because you suggested it doesn't mean you're going to be taking it on. All right? Some of these, you know, are specific to me or certain roles, right? Like I'm the one that's going to be doing the meetings and all that. But let's stay focused on this one. As a data scientist, I want the data available so we can experiment with KNN or with clustering methods. Sorry, with clustering methods, right? A lot of you on the team could take that, right? Yassine suggested it, and it's a good story. That doesn't mean Yassine's gonna have to do it. So I want to make you aware of that. I'm not going to attempt to cover every single method because, again, it's one of those topics that's very complex. You know, I wouldn't be doing it justice. But how you assign stories in Agile is like a whole other science. It's a science upon itself. In some cases, you're going to have like a bidding process where one person says, yeah, I can do that. And and that's the only story I can take. Is it's going to take me 2 weeks. And somebody else might say, oh, no, I can do that and do another story because I think that story is only going to take me 1 week. And then another person comes along and says, no, I can do that in 3 days. I think it's a 3-day story. And so on, right? Because the more stories that are done, there's going to be, you know, more advancement on the team, right? More advancement in the project, right? So it depends. It depends on, as far as who's taking the story, it depends on who thinks they can do it a little better. Or in some cases, you know, it will be whoever suggested it takes the story. In other cases, the team overall might have a cap of how many stories they can take on. They might say, or by the way, an individual can also have a cap, right? Because remember how we talked about estimation? If you are consistently wrong on your estimates and your team knows this, then they might say, well, we usually give you the ability to take on 2 stories, but this time we're only taking the ability to take on 1 story. Because they might really need that 1 story completed. Like they can't miss on that story, right? So you might have an individual cap on yourself, or the team might have a cap on how many stories it can take. So again, I'm not trying to give you a master class on that, but I do want to make you aware that choosing stories it's an involved process. It's not just I suggested it, it's my story, and I'll do it when I want. It's much more structured than that. But again, the key, bringing everything back full circle, is your ability to estimate your work, your processes. So for this story, are you the team's expert on clustering methods? If you are, great, right? Say that and say, hey, I really want this story because I feel pretty strong on clustering. Or maybe you're not so great on clustering and you might say, I'll wait for the neural network story instead. Because wouldn't we have another story like this that's about neural networks? Yeah, we probably would, right? Now that's a reasonable expectation. So maybe you'll take the neural network story because you feel stronger on neural networks. And you express that during the team meeting. Like, hey, I think I can finish this faster than anybody else. That's your bidding, right? That's what you're bidding. Because I feel strong on neural networks, I want to do this. Right? So I want you, so again, it wouldn't be fair for me to just, leave you like this. I want you to understand that picking stories is like a whole other ballgame. Right? And that's okay. It's all part of agile planning. Don't take it personally if you don't get every story you want. It's just the way that you do agile. All right. So I think that's where I want to close off as far as the instructional side of agile. I'm happy to take the questions, your questions, because I know that we've covered a lot. But I think that I've given you a pretty solid foundation for you to be able to talk about this in your interviews. And well, first of all, keep on developing your skills with this, right? Whenever you work on something, you read an article, you're going to do something, think about what the story would look like for that. Measure yourself on your progress. I said I could do this in 2 weeks. Did I actually do it or not? That is by far the best way you could help a team when you first join them, okay? So let me look at some comments. There's a lot of comments here. I'm going to take a pass on some of the stories. You guys are doing great jobs on stories. Yeah, we cover the visualization. We cover that one. Yassine says, yes, sir, you're right. Now I can see. Okay, Yassine, I hope so.